What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with my Week 6 team builder of the GBA D League. This week we are against Randy, HLD Productions, and his Texas Rangers, which is probably the team name that is like the most similar to the team it's supposed to be a parody of. Is obviously Texas Rangers is the same as the Texas Rangers in baseball, but hey, it works out because he's a Pokemon Ranger instead of a Texas Ranger. So yeah, that works out. Anyway, very, very strong opponent that I have this week. Make sure to check him out. He'll be linked in the description below. I think he's relatively unknown in the community, unless maybe people in other circles know of him a lot more than I did before this season started, but he's a very cool guy. Definitely would recommend giving him a look. I know he doesn't get quite as much love on his videos as he probably should, as his the quality of his content is very, very strong. Definitely would recommend you go give him a look, especially if you've never heard of him before, as you know, at least give him that chance. Go take a look at his videos, and I really think you will enjoy what you see over there. Now, I do want to go ahead and mention now that I'm using an entirely different recording setup here for this particular video. I'm trying to use OBS for a recording, and I've never actually done that before. I'm experimenting with some hotkeys and stuff like that to try to basically accelerate my editing process, as now I'm becoming a lot more busy than I actually anticipated here. And I want to minimize my time in editing, so we'll see how that goes here for this video, and I guess let me know what you think of the quality of the video in the comments below. That would be very nice for sure. Now, Randy is a pretty interesting guy, so I've already talked him up in terms of his quality of his videos, but what I haven't talked him up yet in is his quality of prep and quality of battling. Now, I talked about this very briefly at the end of last week's video, or last week's battle upload against Greg, where unfortunately we lost our second straight game, so really need to bounce back this week to remain in a position where we contend for playoffs. But what I was going to say is that Randy is, quite frankly, the most underrated player in the entire league, I think. I have been very impressed personally with his prep, in that while it is not that complex, it is very effective, whereas he will bring the scariest possible mons every single week, it seems. There's very few occasions where he doesn't bring the absolute biggest offensive threats against an opponent, but that's just it. He does definitely focus on offense as opposed to building balance or just bulkier builds in general, so I can expect that going into this game. He's very similar to Aberforth in that regard, where he really likes to bring the fat, and yeah, so that's just something I'll have to keep in mind as I am working through this matchup. Now, my opponent Randy has access to Tapu Koko, Hydreigon, Mega Scizor, Meloetta, Hawlucha, Nidoking, Alolan, Muck, Rapidash, Cloyster, Celebi, and Jellicent, where Tapu Koko and Rapidash are his Z-move users. Now, a couple things to note here on Randy and his prep throughout this season. He is pretty predictable in that he always brings Tapu Koko, which, I mean, that's fair enough. Tapu Koko is a very good Pokemon, but he will always bring it no matter what. And if you look at my roster, having the Nidoqueen, the Seismitoad, and the Rotom Heat, I feel I have some of the best possible switch-ins to Tapu Koko. Rotom Heat actually takes literally any attack from Koko very well. Like, literally the attack that does the most damage to me is Nature's Madness, so that's kind of nice. Or Guardian of Alola if he wants to take that route, which I actually do kind of expect to see, to be honest, but Nidoqueen also is a very good response to Tapu Koko, so bringing both of those Pokemon actually puts me in a very good position, especially considering how freaking likely he is to bring the Tapu Koko in this matchup, despite the fact that I think it's not the best match for Koko, but you know, it's what his team is built around, it's what he uses best. I believe Koko is like very high in the MVP race, maybe even #1 right now, so yeah, it's definitely a threat no matter what, and with that Z Crystal eligibility, Guardian of Alola from the Tapu Inium Z is definitely something I expect to see, as that would be able to chip off 75% from my Rotom or my Nidoqueen on the initial switch in, and he can easily pack Grass Knot plus Thunderbolt and just whatever else he wants basically in that last slot to be able to effectively deal with my most likely switch-ins and still be an offensive threat on his own. So yeah, he's definitely bringing the Tapu Koko, and I'm definitely going to build a team around beating that and making sure it doesn't beat me. It might get some kills, but my intention is to not let it get any, if many, if any, kills. So we'll just see how that goes, I guess. But I do think I have the tools to be able to work around Coco as well as possible. Now, what I don't have the best tools to work around is the Hydreigon, as I don't have switch-ins to Hydreigon. My switch-ins are things like Cobalion and Diancie, and Diancie obviously is 4 times weak to Steel, Hydreigon getting Iron Tail, I believe, maybe Iron Head, and definitely Flash Cannon. So yeah, that's not the best response in the world, although with the Babiri Berry it would be able to take any one hit, so that's something to think about. But Hydreigon is easily the biggest threat against my team offensively, I feel, particularly if it is Life Orb or Choice Specs, as yeah, my Dark switch-ins aren't fantastic. They're not bad, but when it comes to Hydreigon, which has really good coverage for all my Dark switch-ins, yeah, it's a threat. It's a threat to say the least, but I should be able to deal with it, I think, in the long run. It's just something that I can't let get so many free switch-ins to where my team gets broken down too quickly, and I can't really work around it. The other major threat I wanted to single out here is the Hawlucha, as while he is pretty predictable in what he brings with Hawlucha being the Electric Seed SD Acrobatics set, it doesn't make it any less threatening against my team, as the combination of fighting and flying coverage from the Hawlucha, its dual stab, hits my entire team at least neutrally, so that's unfortunate to say the least. The good news is I do have mons that can take +2 hits if I keep them at like very close to full health, those being things like the Mew and the Nidoqueen if they are more defensively invested. I believe even the Cobalion is able to take any +2 hit if I am Chople Berry, which is what I will bring here in this matchup that I'll show here in just a little bit. But yeah, Hawlucha is certainly a big threat against my team, especially because it is able to outspeed literally anything when it gets this Unburdened boost up. Even Scolipede has to have 3 speed boosts to be able to outspeed a jolly Hawlucha with the Unburdened. So yeah, that's a big threat against my team. I definitely cannot allow it to have a free Swords Dance. That's really the goal of the team that I'm building as well. Don't let Tapu Koko beat me, and don't let the Hawlucha get a free Swords Dance without taking a lot of damage and getting put into range of priority. That's what I have to do to make sure I can beat this very scary offensive team that my opponent here has access to in this matchup. Now, another thing to note about his team, he only has 2 Stealth Rockers, those being the Nidoking and the Celebi. I think that they're both okay Stealth Rockers against my team. I think if he brings the Nidoking, it's more likely to be Choice Scarf, though, just because its speed tier at base 85 is just not very good against my draft, especially when the mons that might be brought more defensively are actually able to wall it out pretty well. So I think that Choice Scarf Nidoking is the best possible Nidoking for him to bring. I don't think that's even a guaranteed bring, but if he doesn't bring it, what's nice is that because I'm bringing Rotom Heat, like guaranteed for the Tapu Koko, that's really nice for me, because that means that I can Volt Switch for free without having to fear him going into his ground type. Nidoking being able to actually take any one hit from a Rotom Heat that is not like super offensively invested with Overheat. So yeah, so I think if he brings Nidoking, it'll be Choice Scarfed. I think if he brings the Celebi, it'll be more of a Kang response. I think he has to kind of choose between, he doesn't have to, but he could bring either Jellicent or Celebi as the Mecha Kangaskhan response, either way with a Rocky Helmet, and either way probably with Toxic. And the Celebi could easily be the Rocker in that case if that's what he decides to bring. But if he does bring Rocks, of course I can work around that, but obviously if he doesn't, that really helps me out a lot, because I like to bring that Torrentee. I know I'm bringing the Rotom Heat. Keeping Rocks off the field would be really, really nice. I'm not going to bring Defog on Mew still. In fact, I haven't yet this season. It's been okay, though. But yeah, I can deal with it if he brings the Rocks, but he only has the 2 Rockers, and I don't think Nidoking matches up particularly well, personally. And the Celebi, if he brings it, I feel like I can pressure pretty well with a lot of things on my team. So we'll see what he decides to do on that. The last thing to note, a couple things to note, I guess. Mega Scizor, not the biggest threat to me because I have a lot of things that can pack fire coverage, and I have the Rotom Heat that can resist its dual stab very well, and just a lot of fat in general to keep it in check. And then the Jellicent, I think, is a very good response to the Scolipede. Combination of the Jellicent and the Mega Scizor really shuts down Scolipede, which is unfortunate. I could have brought something like a Toxic or like HP Fire or something like that, maybe Spikes, if I really wanted to in this matchup, just to bring Scolipede and have that speed threat, but I don't really think it's worth it whenever Nidoqueen matches up much better against this team in general, and I may not actually have the space to put a Scolipede on the roster. So just to single out the few things about his team that I'm really going to try to, just to summarize really, the things about his team that I'm going to try to build around and to exploit through my team building. 1, always bringing Tapu Koko and Hawlucha. I'm going to do my absolute best to prevent those 2 from beating me, as if that is his offensive core of choice, if that is what he wants to try to beat me with, then I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen, and he has to beat me me with something else. Hydreigon is not going to be a sweeper. Hydreigon is coming, definitely, but it's going to be a breaker. So that's not really something that I fear beating me in the long run. It could break through me, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't think Hydreigon's going to be his sweeper, though. So then it comes down to, if Tapu Koko and Hawlucha can't beat me, what's he going to try to beat me with? His options are things like Cloyster, maybe. His other option is something like Meloetta. Those are both Pokemon that he has liked to bring throughout the season, especially Meloetta. I think he really likes Meloetta, so I would not be surprised to see that in this matchup, but I do have a variety of ways, I think, to keep that in check as well. So there's my very brief overview of going through this team. Let me see if I remember my hotkeys. This is all new to me. I hope this is the right one. Okay, so I think, well, you're looking at the wrong page now. There we go. So now you're looking at the team builder. So yeah, I'm totally new to this. I'm sorry if this is a little bit sloppy this time. But yeah, so you're looking at the team builder. So this is the team that I am going to bring here against Randy in this week. So first things first, we have the Tornadus T. Now this is a very important set against this team because, quite frankly, it body bags everything that it outspeeds. He only has a few things that can outspeed me naturally, those being the Tapu Koko and the Hawlucha with the Unburden boost. Everything else is outsped by this, outside of being a Choice Scarfer or having priority, for example, to Mega Scizor. This 2-hit KOs almost his entire roster. Okay, I think the only things this doesn't 2-hit KO would be like an Assault Vest Jellicent, which isn't coming. If it brings Jellicent, it's going to be Rocky Helmet for Mega Kangaskhan, like guaranteed. It 2-hit KOs Hydreigon with U-turn unless he's really fat. Also, if he switches in Hydreigon on this, is going to take a Hurricane probably in the process, or a U-turn in the process. So yeah, I don't think that's really a great response to this. The Tapu Koko is not 2-hit KO'd by this actually, but that it's actually it might be. If he's like naive mixed, then Heat Wave might 2-hit KO, but I don't think it will. Regardless, I'm obviously not going to stay in for the 2-hit KO anyways. I'll switch into my either of my 2 Tapu Koko responses. But in general, this is a very good fast momentum gainer and breaker against this team. U-turn is fantastic against this team, especially if he doesn't bring his removal, his only removal options being the Mega Scizor and the Cloyster. Cloyster's not running Rapid Spin, I can guarantee that. That leaves only the Mega Scizor, and I feel like this team in general pressures Mega Scizor so much that he's not going to be able to get rocks off the field. So you'll see a lot of momentum in this on this team, and that's because I don't expect him to be able to get rid of the hazards whenever I get them up, and I do intend to get them up very early in the game because I need hazards damage on a couple of his offensive threats to make sure they are in range of my responses to them. So that's the Tornty. Not a whole lot else to say outside of the fact that I do have a little bit of extra Spadef investment to let me take a hit from Scarf Hydreigon, just in case that's what he decides to bring. I can take a Draco from full health in this scenario. It's also nice because the extra little Spadef allows me to switch into Meloetta a little bit better if needed. I think Calm Mind and Meloetta is the best set against my team. I could see Choice Scarf, but if he's Choice Scarf, I'm not that scared of it. I think Calm Mind is the set to fear the most here, maybe even sub Calm Mind, and being able to switch in on Meloetta relatively safely with my high HP and Spadef investment. Even if you run Psyshock, it's bad enough with the HP investment to take one unless it's like Life Orb. So I can get off a U-turn on that, maybe break a sub if that's what he went for, or just do a lot of damage to him with Hurricane if he doesn't have a Calm Mind up. So I think this is just really good, a really good pivot around his team, just a typical good old reliable Tornty whenever it hits its Hurricanes. Now next up is the Rotom Heat. This is my first of 2 responses to the Tapu Koko. Now this is actually my initial response to Tapu Koko because, like I said, I really expect him to bring the Z Nature's Madness, the Tapu Inium Z on the Tapu Koko to get 75% off of damage on my very likely initial switch into this or into the Nidoqueen. I know that he really wants to break down excuse me. I know that he really wants to break down my responses to Tapu Koko because he wants to win with Tapu Koko. That's just how he plays his games. He wants Tapu Koko to get his kills, so he needs to have a way of breaking down my responses. That's why I really think at least Nature's Madness is coming, but very likely Z Nature's Madness, the Guardian of Alola. And the fact of the matter is, even if he doesn't bring a Z Nature's Madness, if he gets rocks up on my side of the field and goes for a Nature's Madness, against my Rotom early in the game, then I will actually be knocked down to 25%. What you can see is I am an even HP stat on this Rotom Heat. I'm even, because if he goes for the Guardian of Alola on turn 1, I'm expecting him to potentially lead with Tapu Koko. If he goes for Guardian of Alola on turn 1, I take a net of 25% from that. So that's how you burn a Z move, folks. But yeah, so that's pretty nice, but it's also nice, of course, if he gets a Guardian of Alola or a Nature's Madness off on me, then I switch into Rocks later in the game and get 50% back at that point as well. So I think Papa Berry is a very nice bring here in this matchup for sure. Volt Switch, Overheat, pretty standard. Dual Stab, coverage against his team. No real reason to run anything else because that hits his whole team pretty hard. Despite only having 60 ADVs in special attack, this is nice because it allows me to do a little more damage to a potential Nidoking switch in, having that little extra investment in Spatak. And it's also nice for things like Jellicent as well, just to keep it low. And I believe that was the main reason. Also, Overheat's nice to hit Tapu Koko for as hard as possible as well. Now, the last two moves here, I don't have recovery on this. I do have the Berry as my recovery. Instead, I'm running dual stabs, or dual status rather. So Toxic is there because I really need a Toxic on the Hydreigon. Okay, and that will come into play a little more when I talk about my response to Hydreigon here a little bit later on in this video. But a Toxic on Hydreigon is absolutely essential in terms of making this team work. The good news is his first switch into Rotom Heat is like a 99% going to be Hydreigon. He loves offensive switch-ins. That's a very offensive switch-in to the Rotom. And even if I go for a Volt Switch, obviously he's not harmed that much by it, because if he's like Choice Scarfed, then you'll be able to U-turn out on whatever I go into, or maybe have appropriate coverage for it. If he is not Choice Scarfed, if he's like Life Orb or Choice Spect, basically he still pressures me into something that he pressures my switches. I can't go into something passive or something that's like just going to Layer Rocks or whatever, because it's going to be a freaking threat to me. So yeah, so that's something. The Rotom Heat is pretty good with Toxic to catch the Hydreigon, but Will-O-Wisp is also nice to allow me to hit the Alolan Muck on the switch-in if that's what he decides to bring, because Alolan Muck is kind of an annoying pivot for him against my team. I really need to wear it down over time, and that's why you see so much momentum as well on this team, so that I can hit him with any move on the switch into Alolan Muck and then go for a U-turn as well, and just continue that process of chipping him down throughout the game, as in general, Alolan Muck isn't the biggest threat against my team offensively, but I don't want it to stick around for very long, because the longer it's around, that's less opportunities to damage the offensive members of his team. I need to get rid of that sponge as early as possible, chip that thing down as early as possible, and then take on the rest of his team from there. So yeah, that's the Rotom. I believe the speed investment here, I'm trying to remember what I was speed creeping with this. I think I was trying to catch his Nidoking creeping something else on my team, if I recall correctly. I think it's like Nidoking creeping... Ooh, I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to look that up. But yeah, it's creeping something like a Nidoking speed creeping something else. I didn't really want to outpace a max speed Nidoking while I could with my base 86 speed, because I really wanted the offensive investment in the special attacks. So that's the Rotom Heat, my first response to Tapu Koko, and my means of Toxicking the Hydreigon. Now next up is the Nidoqueen, my second response to Tapu Koko. So I'm definitely going in with two solid responses to it, and this is a Life Orb set. It's got a pretty nifty EV spread. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but basically it's just max HP because I can take hits. It has defense for Hawlucha's acrobatics. It has Spadef for Tapu Koko's HP ground if it has a Life Orb, and then 52 speed for general speed creeps, as I want to make sure I outspeed the Mega Scizor. I don't know how fast it's going to be, but if he brings it, I'd really like to outspeed it so that it can't just U-turn on me, get chip damage on me. You know, if it has like, I don't know, SD or something, I want to like force it into Bullet Punch and not like knock off or something. And then the rest in special attack to hit as hard as possible, so that the coverage here allows me to deal with everything on his team, quite frankly. I don't have, like the Thunderbolt is my best way to hit the Jellicent, but the fact of the matter is, because he likes to bring in Tapu Koko to revenge stuff, and the game is likely going to be pretty short with it being against Randy, I believe that the Electric Terrain will be on the field a lot. And when the Electric Terrain is on the field, and I have a Nidoqueen with a Life Orb Thunderbolt Sheer Force boosted, that does a lot of damage to Jellicent and Oko's Hawlucha as well, which is really the main reason why I have it, to kind of whittle down on the Jellicent if he brings it, but more importantly to make sure Hawlucha cannot set up in my face. So that's kind of nice. Earth Power and Poison Jab are just, you know, the dual stabs of choice. The reason why I went with Poison Jab is just in case he has a Calm Mind Tapu Koko with the Shook Berry. This ensures that I can still hit it as hard as possible on the physical side. And I have Earth Power just because, of course, the Alolan Muck is something I want to weaken down as quickly as possible, and Life Orb boosted Earth Power does a lot on that, and Flamethrower, of course, is for the Mega Scizor. Now, next up is the Mew. This is a pretty nice set, kind of my my bailout against the Hawlucha, as well as my bailout against the Cloyster if he brings Shell Smash. Vacuum Wave is also nice here to help me hit the Hydreigon if he happens to try to check my Mew with that. So very fat Pokemon. The investment here does allow me to almost guaranteed take out a max HP Hawlucha. Not that I think he'll be max HP, but I wanted to be sure that I'm going to be able to deal with that type of set if he wants to bring a lot of bulk to try to deal with my Mew. As if Hawlucha is able to get up a free +2 and outspeed my whole team with me being whittled, it definitely can win the game quite easily, so I need to make sure that that's not going to be something he can do. So that's what the investment here allows me to do. It makes sure that a Psychic plus a Vacuum Wave deals with a max HP Hawlucha, guaranteed after Stealth Rock, and a very high chance without Stealth Rocks on the field. So that's pretty nice, and then the rest in physical bulk, of course, to take hits from the Hawlucha and the Cloyster. That's this thing's main role in this game, is to take hits from those Pokemon, as well as to pivot around the Meloetta and Celebi. Those are two Pokemon that's kind of hard for my team to switch into otherwise, so being able to switch in Mew on those, maybe recover up once and then U-turn on them, could definitely come in clutch in terms of gaining offensive momentum in this game. So very solid Pokemon here. Hate bringing defensive Mew so much, but it really was essential whenever the Hawlucha otherwise body bags my team. So next up is the Cobalion. This is my Stealth Rocker in this matchup. It has special defense and HP investment to take hits from Hydreigon as needed, as well as I believe take a hit from Tapu Koko if it needs to as well. With the Chople Berry, it makes sure I'm a guaranteed switch into the Mega Scizor if needed. It also ensures that the Hawlucha is checked by this if I'm at full health. Even if he's a +2, I can take any hit from this because Cobalion is very naturally bulky with a 91-129 split from its HP and defense. So that's pretty nice. Like I said, this is my rocker. Because this is my rocker, I want to make sure it can beat his removal. His removal being Cloyster and Mega Scizor, so I do have the Hidden Power Fire, the Volt Switch, and the Close Combat, which collectively deals with all of them. Because this is probably my initial switch into the Hydreigon, the Close Combat will definitely be nice in terms of making sure that is forced out. Worst case scenario, he just goes into Jellicent or something on my Close Combat. Otherwise, he doesn't have great switches to it at all, so I'd be able to go for a Volt Switch and continue to whittle down the Jellicent in that regard. So that's the Cobalion. Pretty straightforward in terms of its role. Get up rocks early in the game because I need rocks on the field to make sure that I can deal with potential Sash users, because he's an offensive player. I would not be surprised to see a Focus Sash. He's brought a random Focus Sash in the past. Rocks are essential in this matchup for sure. But rocks are just nice to get the Cloyster in guaranteed range of stuff. It gets the Hawlucha in nearly guaranteed range of my Mews. A combination of Psychic and Vacuum Wave, and just rocks are a great move, potentially the best move in the game, maybe right behind Scald. So yeah, so that's pretty important. And then finally we have the Mega Kangaskhan. This is a really freaking fat Mega Kangaskhan. All right, this is like my special wall in this game. Toxic Flamethrower, Wish, and Protect. Shout out to Styx, of course, for the idea on this set. Yeah, very fat. Flamethrower, of course, for the Mega Scizor. It also makes sure that the Cloyster is not a switch into me, because Cloyster is actually 2-hit KO'd, most likely from this set, especially if he is mixed and drops his special defenses. He will not drop his Fizz Death against the potential Mega Kangaskhan that's physically offensive. So, yeah, Flamethrower is basically 2-hit KO on the Cloyster, and does a lot to the Mega Scizor, obviously. Not the strongest offensive option, obviously, on Mega Kangaskhan this week, but that's not really the point. The point is to Toxic Stall. As a team like Randy's that's so frail and doesn't have a Cleric, I don't think at all outside of the Celebi, and he's not going to bring Heal Bell or Aromatherapy on Celebi anyway. So, yeah, the Toxic Stall strategy is really good against him, especially against the Hydreigon and against the Tapu Koko. Either way, that's something that Rotom Heat really complements well on this Mega Kangaskhan. That's why I want that Toxic on the Hydreigon, because if the Hydreigon is Toxic, it means that I'm going to be able to wear it down with this monster. This is something that he'll struggle so much to kill. I think the only way he really can kill it is by setting up on it with Calm Minds, like a sub-Calm Mind user, or by getting in Hawlucha against this, because otherwise nothing is killing this, okay? Absolutely nothing, as long as I don't let this thing get toxic, which I intend to not allow to happen. So that is the team, and 20 EV is just for general speed creeps. But anyway, that is the team. I hope, just let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Hopefully it does well, and you know, it's a tough matchup. Randy is a good opponent. I've kind of felt like this was my second hardest matchup of the season, so getting the two hardest matchups back to back, I felt was, you know, kind of a pain, having Greg last week, which that was That was like really hard. Not like a bad matchup, like I said, but it was still a hard matchup just because of his synergy. This is a hard matchup because of Hydreigon. Literally, I have no switch-ins for it. And just his team is very offensively threatening. If he's able to play around my team well and get sufficient momentum against my team, I could be in a bad spot. But I feel like this team is very good at preventing him from getting that momentum and maintaining momentum on my side of the field, especially if I get my rocks up early in the game. So that's the game plan. That's the team that we're bringing. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hope you guys did enjoy, and I will see you guys tomorrow as we take on Randy and the Texas Rangers. Peace.